Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. Welcome to WowBiz Nebraska. I'm Lynn Hinderaker. You're tuning in today to a very special show. Get ready. You might even grab a paper and a pencil if you even have those around your home these days. We're going to go through a lot of usable, helpful, strategic material that will prepare you and your company for 2023. A lot is coming your way. But thanks so much for tuning in. We've got a lot to discuss with you. By the way, the very first thing I want to discuss with you today is resilience. All right, we're going to talk about the single most important word in business today is resilience. Now, before I came over here today, I did a little research deal. I didn't use the word resilience, but I did throw 3 C words out at my, I don't want to say my audience, but a group of people that were helping me out. A little quick informal research. And I said, I got 3 C words. Resilience is the big thing for today, but 3 C words, I'm going to throw them at you. I would be interested to hear what you say. Here are the three words that begin with C. Think about the best thing that you could do right now with your company, with your sales team, your operations team, your customers, to go forward. First word is creativity. Second word is collaboration. It's a good word. Third word is community. Aren't those 3 interesting words? You know, they come up in kinds of different contexts, of course, but one gal said right away, creativity. I said, you know, I would have a tendency to believe that, you know, I would agree with that, especially when it's kind of linked to innovation. But, you know, there's a lot of people that say, I'm creative, you know, but a lot of bosses are a little bit cynical about so-called creative employees because they think of them as flakes. Sometimes they don't know how to implement and actually turn creativity into an innovative, tangible initiative or product or whatever. So that's a touchy thing, but I really enjoyed hearing a young person say creativity is the one. Now, I had another person say, I think community is really the key word these days. I said, why? Well, this gal, she was a business person. She said, the thing is, community has to do with relationship building. And it seems like in the internet era, everybody's so transactional and hit this and do this and, you know, buy the product, goodbye. Everything is so transactional. And she says, I really think we all crave community, relationships, and so on. I said, that's really cool. Now, the other person that I was talking to said, I don't really get that. I said, here's what I want you to study, and I'm going to share this with you right now out there in the audience, and that is ecosystems or eco-nets. Several years ago, I used the word platform. Nobody got it. I did a little presentation for the Nebraska Hospital Association. I said, the big thing is to get on a platform, make a platform, create some kind of a thing where people can come on and off this digital platform. And people looked at me very quizzically. They were kind of cynical about it, to be honest with you. But here we are in this day and age, and this is a wonderful opportunity for you to bond and create interdependence. Now, the third C word, collaboration, I just want to stop and talk about this for a second, and then I'll share an interesting story about opposites and planning and operating from an opposite point of view. But here's collaboration, all right? A lot of people say, you know, Lynn, I like the idea of it, but when I reach out to people and try to, you know, imply that maybe we should collaborate, first of all, they assume that my company's not doing well. That's the first bad thing. But secondly, one person's going to make a collaborative gesture and the other person will reciprocate, and pretty soon they have a relationship, you know, and they talk to each other maybe once a week or more, and they're different companies, you know, but they're working together to achieve some kind of synergy, all right? And that's great. The problem is that company A may be doing a lot of collaboration, maybe getting the other guy some new customers or making suggestions or passing along white papers or newspaper articles that kind of feed where they're at in their industry. While the other guy is basically just, I'll meet you at a mixer and introduce you to somebody I know or whatever. So they have different levels and degrees of collaboration. That's why you need a third party. You really do. In fact, you need to partner or perish, which is a white paper that I've written over the years where I actually document collaboration, alliances, and so it's very interesting. Some of them fall apart rather quickly, but let's talk about a successful one. And I'll get back to this resilience thing in a minute. Now, think about the electronic vehicle market. The electrical vehicle market is exploding. General Motors is investing billions in it. I mean, this is it, man. This is a huge mega trend, and everybody's kind of scrambling to get their parts and supplies and everything all lined up and so on. Well, as it turns out, there's two key components. If you're going to be in this business, which it seems like everybody is, you've got to have a battery, usually a lithium battery of some sort. Now, that's a very rare metal, by the way. It takes a lot of mining and work with them to make lithium batteries effective and so on. But the other thing is, and I can't even use the right word, it's like intelligent, it's like the brain, so to speak, of an electrical vehicle, right? And a lot of interesting microchips in there and heavy duty programming. And this is really what drives the car, right? So extremely important. Now, whether it's Ford or GM or Mercedes-Benz or whatever, they're going to come knocking on your door if you manufacture either one of these very important products, right? And this has been going on now about 2 years. So they finally put their heads together and said, you know, maybe we should be collaborating. Maybe, in fact, we should have some kind of a financial partnership, a relationship, right? So they did that, they acted on that, and they brought together these two extremely important components, melded them, designed them so that when you buy the battery, you also get the brain, so to speak, the microchip stuff and everything. So they're all, now it's a how do I say it? It's a bundle, right? It's a value added bundle. It's everything. It'd be like, you know, your heart, so to speak, right? Your heart has got to work for the rest of your entire body and your brain to work as well. That's what we're talking about here. And they came together and created a new heart for the electrical vehicle industry. It's a very interesting example of a successful strategic alliance. So if you're ever interested in talking more about alliances, cutting your costs, doubling or tripling your footprint in the marketplace, I'm telling you, you want to talk about partnerships and alliances, and it does help to have a third party, by the way, to be kind of objective about who's bringing what to the party. Who's bringing what to the party. You know, it's an interesting thing. We've been talking a lot about opposites lately and contrast and being particularly clever the way you think about things and not going about your business, whether it's your operations or whether you're innovating, whatever it is, and doing it all in the same way you did it in 2019 or before. I'm going to give you a little personal story. My house, where my wife and my family and I live, is right next to an alley. It's not unusual. But as we get close to the house, right there in the front of the house, the alley declines quite severely. It's the most aggressive decline of an alley in the entire city of Omaha, I think. Now, it has not been maintained with cement or blacktop or anything like that. So over the years, it's gotten quite rough and ruddy, and it's not well maintained by the city. Anyway, my garbage cans, of course, we have to empty our garbage once a week. Everybody has to do that. My garbage cans are kind of positioned near this alley. So I had, just the other day, I had my trash all piled up in my big garbage can, and I'm pushing the bags down. So it was kind of heavy. This was a big, full container, and I mean a big container of trash bags, right? And I've got to get these things down to the curb down by the street, and I've been struggling with it, trying to figure out how to get them down there without having some kind of a disaster. Well, anyway, and of course we have snow and ice in this area of the country for a while, so it was wet and slippery and rough and quite steep. So I grabbed the trash can and I'm pulling it down. Now I'm going down the hill, and I've got my hands like this, and I'm going like this. Okay, I'm going like this down this somewhat steep lawn or hill, actually the alley portion of it, and I'm pulling it down. I get about halfway there, and I kind of lose a grip, and my feet slip a little bit, and oh my goodness, down comes the garbage can, right? I mean, it comes down. So now we have about 4, 5, 6 garbage bags on the ground out there in the alley. And I'm picking them up, you know, I'm trying to reestablish my stability, I guess. And I'm getting all these bags back in there, and I'm lifting it up. It's very heavy. And I'm getting the lid down, and I got another, oh my goodness, 30 feet to go or so down to the street. And for some reason, it occurred to me that this whole thing that I'm going through right there was symbolic. It was symbolic. And I thought, you know, this is a lot like companies, you know, that do things a certain way, but it's challenging, it doesn't work, it's kind of sloppy, a sloppy procedure, and it depends a lot on their strength, whether it's their talent, not their physical strength, but their talent, their ability to kind of balance the company as we move through production, distribution, da-da-da-da-da. Hopefully you can see the symbolism. Well, anyway, I thought to myself, you know, I don't know what I'm thinking here, because this big garbage can also has handles on the other side. And obviously we're on an incline. So I thought, what am I doing? So I climb around the other side, right? Get on the other side of the garbage can, and I hold on to it tightly. And now the weight of the garbage can is obviously pulling us down towards the bottom of the street there. And I'm holding on to it, I'm controlling it, but it's much, much greater control. Right? I'm not quite as worried. As long as I can hold on to it, I can hold on to it all the way down. And I thought to myself, man, this is so obvious. I cannot believe that I hadn't done this before. Right? I hadn't thought of it this way. And basically, I flipped. Right? Mentally, I went from this side to this side. And all of a sudden, I gained greater control. And I wasn't even worried about all the ridiculous falling down and restaging the product or the trash or whatever we're talking about. I'm sure you see the symbolism here, because this has happened, for instance, in retail, right? In retail, we work so hard to get people to come to our store, and we're sending out ads and postcards and flyers and mailers, getting our inventory up there. Come on in, please, right? But now we can put all the product up on online, close the store, and we're doing all of our business online, and we're holding up pretty good. Very little extra cost, in fact, less cost, and doing a pretty good volume, much more profitable, obviously. It's a completely different way of thinking about the business that you're in. And I just want to say this. Have you ever stood in a stream, take your shoes off, maybe as a kid, and you stand there in the stream, and the stream water is going right by you, right? And you're just standing there. So you feel like you're stationary, right? That's what a lot of company owners think. We're stationary, we're in the same place, just standing here in the marketplace, trying to sell whoever we can sell, right? But the background, the culture, the world, the environment is flowing rapidly past you. So when you look down, it's different water that you're observing. And this is a great symbol of business today. We think we are pretty much the same company we were 3 years ago, but the environment has steadily and fluidly moved past us, right? Symbolically here, and we're still trying to do business the way we were in 2019. And it's not working so well, and we can't figure out why, because the stream looks pretty much the same way as it used to. But everything has changed. Everything has changed, and it's exciting to be able to stand here right now and share this with you, and share these ideas and concepts so that you can adjust and adapt. You can be resilient. You can be resilient. Now, I was going to talk to you a little bit about resilience, because of all these words, even the C words I mentioned at the beginning of the show, resilience is the key thing, isn't it? You've got to be able to spring back, adapt, adjust, get pushed down, reorganize, rethink, fire somebody, hire somebody, whatever it is, you've got to figure out a way to stay flexible, adaptive, and be able to keep moving, even though you're emotionally attached to kind of what the company has always done, or the customers, or whatever. Here's the thing about resilience, and we'll wrap up this first half of the show this way. Back in 1989, I was in San Francisco. I was in my office there working with Taco Bell's advertising agency. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at my bookcase. I always have a bookcase in my office. and the bookcase, as I was on the phone, began to tip away from the wall on its own. It just began to tip, and my books began to fall out in slow motion, man. It was like surreal. And my assistant out in front of the office said, "Lynn, we're in an earthquake." This was a 7.2. It occurred during the World Series, which was being held in San Francisco at that time, 1989, October of that particular year. Now, my wife and I lived in a high, kind of a high condominium, and we were about 16, 17 floors up. It was about 25 floors in this particular condo or apartment building. I ran out of my office and I'm seeing something horrible. I mean, I'm seeing buildings flattened. I'm seeing fire. I'm smelling gas. I hear policeman siren. I hear people screaming over here near the Oakland Bay, even out there in the middle of the water. Frightened to death, of course, so I'm running. I ran 2 blocks through a beautiful park to my apartment building, and I thought possibly it would have collapsed and probably my wife would be dead. All right, so this is a very scary time. And it's a little bit, by the way, again, we're talking symbolism. Think about what we've gone through in this country since 2021, 22, 20, and so on. Kind of an earthquake, isn't it? Kind of an earthquake. That's right. Now, I got there, and there were a lot of people milling around, and the building had not fallen down, even though here and there, buildings are all over the place, kind of broken and half of them like flattened, etc. I finally found her. Obviously, I was thrilled about that. And I asked her, I said, "Now, why didn't our building fall down? It seems like everything else did around here." And she said, "I overheard somebody talking about that." And she said, apparently, years ago, like maybe decades ago, they passed a law, and engineers did this. Any really tall building had to have rollers, think of big tall rollers underneath the basement, right? Underneath the basement, the very bottom layer right there, so that if the ground moved, obviously the building would naturally adjust and roll on rollers and stay aright, stay straight up. Now, this is an incredible thing to me. I realize engineers are going, well, sure, of course, but most of us are like, I'd never heard of such in my life. I couldn't believe it. These were the buffers, right? These were the buffers that prevented us from dying, and many other people as well. So as we go through the pandemic, we kind of come out on the other end. We're a little shook up. Our lives and our lifestyle has changed discernibly. My question to you, as we wrap up the first half of our show here, my question to you is this: what are your buffers? What are your rollers? What do they symbolize for you? Is it money in the bank? Is it talent in your office? No matter what happens, I've got Harry and Joe, and they'll help us go forward no matter what happens. Could be that. Maybe you have a philosophy. Maybe it's a very personal thing about how to live and survive in a very difficult situation, or frankly, in your entire life. Whatever it is, you've got to have a buffer. You've got to have something, some way to stand up straight when everything around you is toppling because of pressures of one sort or another. Now, again, we've done a lot of symbolism here, but I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. Now is the time to find out what your buffers really are and to begin to adapt and put them into place and raise yourself up, reinvent yourself, as Tom Peters says, reimagine your company, reimagine your community. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching WowBiz Nebraska. And again, I'm Lynn Hinderaker, and we are so happy to have you here. There's so much to talk about, but we're going to take a quick break right here in the middle of our show. And I'm going to talk a little bit about our sponsor for today's show, which is the city of Fremont. Believe it or not, city of Fremont, Nebraska. Very interesting community. I'm going to share with you briefly what I've learned about the community. Very positive changes, adaptations going on in Fremont. Some people in the Omaha area say, well, I would never go up there, etc. No reason to do that. By the way, Blair is up there as well, as we all know. And this is an economic development TV show. That's what this is. And we're proud to be able to put this content and programming out there so that all the people in Nebraska, economic developers, chamber people, mayors, municipal planners, all these people, I hope, all right, I hope, are watching WowBiz Nebraska as often as they can. It's right on YouTube, right under KPAO TV, coming out of Omaha, Nebraska, of course. Now, I want to talk to you again about Fremont. You know, this is an interesting community because their current mayor is, I think, the youngest mayor in the state of Nebraska. The youngest mayor. And I had the opportunity to meet with him recently. His name is Joey Spellerberg. He took over, came from Alabama back to Omaha or back to Nebraska, and then took over his parents' or his family's business called Mustache Joe, and it's a tour bus or a tour business, a travel business. Very successful, by the way, and been around the Fremont area for a long time. In fact, I just talked to somebody the other day who took that particular business all the way to Iceland or Finland, I can't quite remember, and they were escorted there by Joey Spellerberg, the mayor of Fremont. Now, two things stand out. I just want to say this. Because he's a young guy, he wants to do positive change and so on. He's not all about holding on to the past. Although he wants to be respectful, of course, of what has preceded him. This is the tension that all mayors have. And of course, most of the time in Nebraska, we have part-time mayors. They're busy doing other things, and so it's tough for them to find the time to stay on top of zoning issues and city council meetings and committees and so on, and then also make some kind of a visionary statement trying to turn the community, turn the corner, help make sure that they're ready to absorb and even redesign the future of Nebraska. And Joey, is working to do that. Here are two things he's done, all right? Number one, they've developed and they put a lot of resources, a lot of time and energy into creating a strategic plan that involves, I think it's a 10-year vision for the city of Fremont. And Joey, and like I said, many people participated in this. It's a great exercise, it really is. The question I have when I see these plans, because I've seen a few of them around the state of Nebraska, is do you have the resources to implement the incredible positive changes that are woven into the plan? All right, that's a very interesting thing. A lot of the skill sets that people that are in administrative, civic roles and so on, they may not have the skills necessary to actually implement all of these plans. So that's just an interesting thing. We can put that aside. It's not a negative, but it's a constructive question. Now, the other thing, we all know that Nebraska is struggling with the ability to retain young people, young professionals. We got about 4,000 of them leaving every year. The pandemic was rough. They left in greater numbers. They didn't come back by and large. So it's a very tough game if you're a mayor of any community. Of course, there's about 27,000 people in the Fremont area. So you got to think about how are we going to get these people to stay here, get jobs here, work and live here, pay taxes here. It's not an easy thing to do. But Joey has tapped into the Nebraska Creative Arts, I'm not saying that correctly, organization, nonprofit. They're distributing funds across the state of Nebraska based upon, obviously, proposals and so on. And they're going to create a creative district there in Fremont, Nebraska. So make a note of that, because as this kind of comes together, it's going to be interesting and kind of exciting to see. And all of a sudden now they're going to have a district probably on Main Street or Bell, right in that area. And that's going to be beautiful and interesting, visually exciting. And hopefully that will be the vortex, something that will attract young professionals and encourage people to stay right there in Fremont, Nebraska. So they have a plan, they put a lot of energy and thought into it, and they're going to have, I believe, a creative district. Now my question to you is this enough? Well, we'll see, right? Is this enough to hold people, to kind of keep this next generation here in our state? That's the critical issue, and I'll talk to you about that down the road. But congratulations, Joey, and congratulations to the Chamber and all the folks that have worked hard to keep the community moving towards the cutting edge. I'm not saying they're there exactly, but they definitely are moving in the right direction, and it takes a lot of effort and time. So good for them and good for Fremont, Nebraska. Absolutely. All right. We're back here at WowBiz Nebraska, but you know what? I'm going to talk. I love Communities Nebraska. I love how they respond to trends and how people are coming in or going, the businesses that like being there. Other people want to get out. You know, the story is always different. But there is a community here, and I love to talk about Nebraska City, by the way. There's a huge potential. But I want to chat a little bit about Crete, Nebraska. They're about 35, 40 miles south of Lincoln, Nebraska, as most of you might know. And this is a place, and some of it is just beautiful. It's a really lovely community in some ways. Downtown, like many other smaller communities around the state, hasn't really been kept up that well because there really isn't a vision that's anticipatory and positive and exciting and getting all the people that own these buildings and spiff them up and have some continuity in design and so on. Because let me tell you, these young people that I alluded to briefly before, they want to be downtown. You know, they want to live in a dense area. And for obvious reasons, some place to have coffee or maybe have a drink, entertainment, music, excitement, good-looking apartment buildings and offices. And most importantly, pedestrian. They want it to be green, biophilic, and the kind of place where you can hang out. It doesn't have to be a big retail hotspot. We know that's kind of evolved over the time, but really a place to meet other people. It's got to be beautiful, contemporary, and all that. And that's really an issue because when you have city councils, and you want them to fund this stuff, right? They're going to have architects. We're talking 6 figures, maybe more. So it's a huge bite in the budget to go in there and create a beautiful arts district or a beautiful downtown in Nebraska. But then the next question is, how do we get people to know about it and come here? Because so many communities just don't know how to market themselves. They don't have time, they don't have that skill set, they're not really interested in that kind of tactic or skill set. So it's a big deal to try to revitalize and renovate a community beginning with downtown, and yet you can't avoid it. Now, Crete, let's talk about them for a second. This doesn't take a brain surgeon, but I got to tell you, they've missed the boat. And something is coming, the boat is coming towards them. They have to understand that the generation of people right now that are in college, in high school, maybe they've been out of college a few years and so on, the quality that they embrace, that they really care about, creativity. Creativity. They want to create. Are you staying with me so far? We're talking about Crete. We're talking about create. Now, whoever is in charge of the game plan in Crete needs to grab that word, bring an outsider in, maybe a professional, and figure out a way to attract creativity into Crete, Nebraska. Let me tell you, nobody else can say it but Crete, Nebraska and their leadership in that community. All right. I'm Lynn Hinderaker with WowBiz Nebraska. It's been a great show. A lot of things to talk about here, a lot of notes to take. Next time we get together, we're going to talk about diversification into adjacencies. You're boundaryless. Keep that in mind as we sign off here on WowBiz Nebraska. Talk to you soon. I'm Lynn Hinderaker.